People of color, what's the most racist thing you've experienced at a predominantly white school?
I've been waiting for this one. So in third grade, I was the only black kid in my entire school, and we went on a trip to the zoo. And at the zoo, they took us to the monkey exhibit. And one of my teachers looked at me and was like, "You'll like this one." And I was like, didn't get it. I was fucking 7. And then they offered me monkey food and made me eat it. And then they were all laughing and I didn't understand why. And then I went home and told my dad and he was furious.
People of color, what's the most racist thing you've experienced at a predominantly white school?
So from the files of you're never going to believe this. Year is 1986. I went to a junior high called Pinecrest Junior High in Sherman Oaks, California. I was in 7th grade. And a little background in Sherman Oaks, it was a private school and the population of Sherman Oaks was like 3% black. So every year the 8th graders did a fundraiser for their class and you're never going to believe what it was. These fools had a slave sale. As you can see in that first picture, that's the auctioneer, and you would basically bid on 8th graders and dress them up and do like silly things, have them carry your books and stuff like that. Obviously, I wasn't as culturally aware as I am now, but, I participated. As a matter of fact, my dumbass went around in 8th grade bragging because I earned more money as a slave than everyone else.
People of color, what's the most racist thing you've experienced at a predominantly white school?
My freshman year in high school, a bunch of white boys thought it'd be a smart idea to drive around our student parking lot, beeping their horns on the truck while waving around a Confederate flag and a Trump flag. Now, you see, I remember this day very vividly because we had basketball practice that morning, and when we got out, we noticed that there was a big commotion, so we went out there to see what was happening. This event pretty much caused a bunch of racial tension in the school because, as you would expect, a bunch of the people of color, especially black people, were sent into uproar, pissed, and a bunch of the white kids just thought it was funny. Games. Shouldn't be taken that seriously. Here's a picture. Yeah, we were on the local news. That was fun. Their faces are blurred because they were minors at the time, but they knew what they were doing. I personally think they should have all been expelled, but no, the worst punishment any of them got was that they got sent to the district's alternative learning center and came back second semester.
People of color, what's the most racist thing you've experienced at a predominantly white school?
I low-key kind of have a lot, but I'm going to tell these 2 stories. So when I was in 8th grade, both of them happened when I was in 8th grade. So when I was in 8th grade, I was playing Foursquare. Foursquare was like the thing everybody would play, and I was really good. I'm a competitive person, and this one kid was so determined to get me out. Like, he really wanted to get me out, and I got him out, and he got so mad, and he got in my face and called me the N-word, hard R, and everybody was like, and his dad was one of those parents that came to the school a lot, and his dad was a police officer. So another time, this was also in 8th grade, we had like this end of year trip to DC, and these kids on the bus were ranking like the prettiest girls in the school, and one kid suggested my name, and people were like, no, she can't be pretty, she's black.
What's the most racist thing you've experienced at a predominantly white school?
So I'm pretty sure the most racist thing that I've ever experienced while in a predominantly white school was during my 8th grade English class with Miss Shavanik. We were listening to a Japanese story told by a Japanese narrator, and so the audiobook had the person speaking with the Japanese accent. So I'm used to hearing that. Other people are not because were not half Japanese like me, so they weren't used to it. But a couple of the kids in my class decided it would be real funny to direct their attention at me and go like this and like giggle and snort at everything that he said and like mock him by going like ching chong while staring at me doing it like, oh, so this is like one of those indirect attacks. And my teacher was saying nothing about it. And my friend was holding my arm because at this time I was still like having problems with anger management. But I said, fuck it. I threw the book at their faces and they were the ones that got sent to the principal's office, not me.
People of color, what's the most racist thing you've experienced at a predominantly white school?
The way I have been waiting on this. So there's 2 schools involved in this, but both the schools are the same vibes. This is when Facebook was like the big thing. We were all using it. It was teenagers, and me and this guy went to 2 different schools, and we were talking. We weren't dating, but we were hopefully going to date soon. And one day he just texted me at night out of the blue and just said, hey, we can't do this anymore. I can't date you. And obviously I was like, why? And he said, I don't want to tell you, like, I'm embarrassed and I can't tell you. I got it out of him, and he basically said that his mom clicked on my page, like from posting on his page all the time, and saw me and said, hey, you can't date her because she's not white. I was 15.
People of color, what's the most racist thing you've experienced at a predominantly white school?
Well, it started when I left the continent of Africa. I was 6 years old, couldn't speak English, and went to an all-white elementary school. During lunchtime, I got in line, and then all of these white kids started cutting me. And one white kid bumped me against the shoulder and said, move, N-word. Mind you, this isn't an elementary school. We know where they learned it from. Anyways, I didn't know what it meant, so I said, thank you.
What's the most racist thing you've experienced at a predominantly white school?
There is too much to say, but here are some of them. So there was a kid in my grade that had really slanted eyes, so everyone's like, oh my gosh, he's Asian, even though he wasn't Asian. They would just make jokes and roast him all the time how he looked Asian. So one day in class, this one kid was roasting him, and he was like, do you know what's wrong with you? You look Asian. And the minute I looked at him, he realized what he said, and he got very quiet. And then there was also another guy who would always talk to me with an Asian accent, and he would always call me Chink, which made no sense. And don't even get me started with my name. You have no idea how many people would say, oh, did your parents throw pots downstairs to get your name? And then with my eyes, everyone would tell me I had the smallest eyes ever, when in reality, look at them. I'm pretty sure they're bigger than yours.
People of color, what's the most racist thing you've experienced at a predominantly white school?
I don't want to name my school, but my sophomore year in college, I was sitting at my friend's dorm, all whites. We were waiting for food to arrive from other friends, and one of the dudes, I didn't even really know who he was just looking at his phone, gets a message, and just screams a hard R N-word at it. I was, of course, the only black person. I was like, did you really just say that? The rest of my white friends were like, and this dude had the audacity to look at me and say, oh shit, I forgot you were here. And when I was visibly getting upset, the rest of my white friends were like, oh, that's just him. He's just playing around. He just does that sometimes. Stop. Don't freak out. So I just never talked to them again and made black friends and had a great time in college. So lesson learned.
What's the most racist thing you've experienced at a predominantly white school?
Okay, so this was 1998 or 1999. I was 6 years old. I was in first grade at the time. The fifth graders in my school, as part of their history unit, would have a slavery segment, if you will. So part of this segment was doing an Underground Railroad simulation. And they would all come in, like, dressed up in full slave garb. Like, literally the little girls had, like, long sleeve, floor length, like, dresses, bonnets, the whole fucking 9 yards. And they would have to run from classroom to classroom and hide underneath desks and in closets and all this other shit. And their teacher would come and round them up and bring them back to their own classroom, which they called the plantation. I wish I were making this up.
People of color, what's the most racist thing you've experienced at a predominantly white school?
So this is something I experienced as a teacher. I was doing long-term subbing at my old high school that was predominantly white. And I'm in the little lounge, about to get my lunch, and this teacher comes up to me and she's like, oh, you're trying to get a job in this county? Like, that's really hard to do. And I was like, yeah, but she didn't even let me finish because I already had an open contract. But she was like, oh, yeah, you'll definitely get it, like, because you're black. And I was like, what? She's like, yeah, like, they need, like, diversity, so, like, you'll definitely get it. And I'm just like, so it's not because I'm a good teacher, but okay. And I was just like, okay. She's like, yeah, like, they definitely need you because I'm black.
What's the most racist thing you've experienced at a predominantly white school?
Oh my god, so I went to like a predominantly white school in middle school, right? I was in the 6th grade. And I had this one white teacher that constantly talked to me about like where I was from and shit like that. And then one day she had me meet the one other Asian girl in that entire school, and she was like in the 8th grade. And then she pulled her aside and had us talk to each other face to face with her in the middle like it was two fucking dogs meeting each other for the first time. And I shit you not, she had us state where in the Philippines that we were from. So of course, like, we said it, like, you know, and she dead ass went like, oh, and where are you from? Oh, do you guys like know where that is? Like, maybe you guys probably like know each other from there. At the time, I thought she was just being nice, but now that I look back to it and really think about it, she genuinely believed that we were probably related or knew each other only because we were fucking Asian.
People of color, what's the most racist thing you've experienced at a predominantly white school?
I will never forget this one. I was in the 3rd grade, right? And this white girl comes up to me. Mind you, I'm like 8, 9. And back then I did the big chop, so my hair was in a big afro, and I was already feeling self-conscious because of that. She comes up to me, touches my hair. She touches my hair and she's like, oh my God, it feels like cotton. And I looked at her and I was like, cotton is dry. Cotton, no. And then she proceeded to keep on trying to convince me that my hair felt like cotton. Yeah.
People of color, what's the most racist thing you've experienced at a predominantly white school?
Whoa, where to start? There was a lot of name calling and stuff like Kit Kat, Oreo, Snickers, like mostly food, but like the point was made. It wasn't really creative, and I didn't take offense to it because they were stupid, but the point was I was black on the outside, white on the inside. And the reason why they said I was black on the outside and white on the inside was because of my success in both academics and athletics. On the academic side, I was well-spoken. I took all AP classes. I was one of the top-tier students with like a 4.3 GPA or something. And on the athletic side, I was track, team, cross-country, soccer, that kind of stuff. So when I exceeded in the classroom, I was considered white because of my thinking skills. And I was black on the field because of my natural athletic genetic prowess. Why do you have to divide people up like that? And granted, I'm mixed, but that doesn't define me. I don't have a white or black side. I'm just me.
Tell me you've been single a long time without telling me you've been single a long time.
When people ask if I'm in a relationship with anyone, I say, yeah, with Jesus. You know, because he's enough for me. He's all I need.
Name a job where the amount of work and the amount of pay do not match.
Oh, that's easy. Being a Section 8 real estate investor, I might, on a good week, put in 5 hours worth of work if I'm lucky. That's normally just signing off documents such as new HVAC installations or roofing installations. And for that amount of work that I put in, Section 8 will send me over $400,000 per month in rental payments for my tenants. Obviously, about 60% of that is actually passive cash flow. The other 40% goes to the bank and mortgages and taxes and insurance. But for the amount of work that I do and the amount of pay that they pay me each month, it's very not matching up.